Today's lesson on biomes lends itself very well to practicing note-taking. This is an essential skill to develop as you move up in grades, and the topics get even more complicated. When you watch a required video, are listening to a lecture, or reading material, setting yourself up for success is the key to good note-taking. This particular format on the screen is just one way. As you get better, you will find and adapt what works for you. Page 1 of your worksheets today should look something like this. Please find it now. You should have it in front of you. If you don't, please pause the video and get a packet of the worksheets so you have it to reference, because you will be using it today on one of the biomes videos that we're watching. Okay, do you have this particular sheet? It should be on number 1, page 1 of your worksheets. When you begin a class lecture or watching an informational video, you want to set your paper up or electronic notes, whichever works easier or better for you, and draw lines. Have a section for key words that you hear and questions that you may have. Let's look at an example from a college freshman. She is taking an anatomy class. She has what the main idea is about. These are her notes. And she has keywords along the side. And her notes in the middle. Do you notice how they are color-coded? That also is a skill that you can use when you're note-taking to be able to make things that are very important come quickly or pop out to your eye. It is important to complete this part soon after the information is given to you, or you can forget. So let's practice together using a Khan Academy video. If you've never used Khan Academy, it is a free platform that you can basically search for anything, especially math and sciences. So as you get into your upper grades and begin to take more and more complicated classes, please remember Khan Academy, because they are video tutorials that if you didn't understand a topic, that you can go back and look at it. So we're going to use Khan Academy today to help us in looking at note-taking and biomes. So remember that this lesson is on biomes. We already know that. So we put the title at the top. Remember in the when we looked at this, our college student, Abby, she put the title at the top. So you break, this particular paper already has it broken down, so you don't have to draw the lines, but you always put your title at the top first. All right, and then so as you're watching this video, you're going to be listening for keywords and key thoughts as you go through. And as you hear them, you write them down so that you remember them. And the great thing about a video is if they talk too fast, you can pause them and then write it down, or even back up the video to be able to write down your information. So let's start with the Khan Academy and then work on our notes.
So just as a bit of a review, if we take the members of a certain species that share the same area, we call that a population. Population. All of the organisms in this particular population will be members of the same species. There could be other members of that species that aren't in that same area, and they wouldn't be a member of this particular population. And a certain area won't have just one, or doesn't tend to have just one species in it, so we could call this population 1. You might have other populations there of a different species. So this is another species right over here, all of them combined in the same area. We could call this population 2. And if you take, and we could obviously have many more populations there. And if you take all of the populations in a given area, and there's flexibility on how you define that area or define that region, you take those together, so you're really taking all of the living things in a certain area. We call that a community. the community of populations. Now, the community only consists of living things, the biotic factors. So let me write that down. Biotic referring to the living things.
Okay, let's pause there and go back over to our notes. So Khan Academy has said some information. So, oh shoot, I went over to the wrong way. Let me get over to this one. So in our biomes and our note taking, he mentioned the word biotic, living things, and 2 or more populations equal a community. So now notice in my note taking, I have the title and I have information and I have a word that I probably will know that is an important aspect. So we have keywords and we have information that goes along with the video so that we can refer back to these notes. So let's continue on.
A certain area. But if we want to think about not just the living things, but also the non-living things in that region, so I'll write abiotic. Let me do that in another color. So let's take the abiotic factors or the abiotic environment. And once again, we're sharing the same region, and that is flexible on how you define that region. You put all of these things together, and then you get your ecosystem. Your ecosystem, once again, it could be a very small region, it could be a very large region, but it's made up of all the living things, the biotic factors, and the non-living things, the abiotic factors. Now, what we're going to think about in this video is just the types of ecosystems that you might have. Think a little bit about it. And also begin to think about how the different factors interact with each other. How there's a conservation of matter, where within an ecosystem, matter tends to go from one form to another. You also have a flow of energy. Energy tends to enter an ecosystem in form of light, and that energy gets transferred from one organism to another, and sometimes even involving the non-living things, eventually getting turned into actual heat. Now, in terms of the types of ecosystems, I already mentioned there's a lot of variety there. This right here is a picture of a tide pool at Half Moon Bay, not too far from where I live. I've actually been to the tide pools at Half Moon Bay. And you could consider one particular tide pool, both the abiotic factors, the water and the rock there, as well as the biotic factors, the starfish, the sea anemones, and whatever else might be living there. Those combined, that could be an ecosystem. You might say that the entire beach is an ecosystem. You might say that the entire region is an ecosystem. Once again, it depends on how much you want to zoom in or how much you want to zoom out. And you can zoom out a good bit. This rainforest right over here, this is the Amazon rainforest. You can consider the whole rainforest an ecosystem. Or maybe you just want to study what's happening in this exact region right over there. You could also consider that an ecosystem. You can consider what's happening in the river itself an ecosystem, or maybe one part of that river. And as you notice, I'm talking about some ecosystems that are on land and some that are in water. And that is a general way of one way of classifying them. So an ecosystem, you could have it on land, you could have it near in the water, so we could say it's aquatic. And then even within aquatic, you can have ones that you have salt water or partially salty water, and these are called marine. And the main marine ecosystem, we're thinking about the oceans and things like that. And then you have freshwater ecosystems, like if you are in the upper Amazon, that is fresh water that is flowing. So we could say fresh.
Okay, let's stop there because that's a lot. Look at all the information that he has. He has mapped it out. Khan Academy has mapped it out, and we're at aquatic and marine. So as you're watching these videos, on your particular paper, you'll want to, on your note-taking, and you've set up your paper with your lines, you want to make sure that you list the things that they have. Of course, my computer is taking forever to load there. Here we go. So we've got our title. We've already written down a word, and we've written down the populations. But now we've listened to a lot more on the video. We learned about the word abiotic, and he made information available to you about the difference between abiotic and biotic. He talked about the tide pool and that there was a starfish in the tide pool that is biotic, and an abiotic would be the rock, non-living. He also mentioned that ecosystems can be found on land and on water. Remember that chart at the top, and that aquatic, the water section, the aquatic, can be broken down into fresh or salt water. So right now, my note taking is at the point in the video where he was at. Again, the summary is afterwards. That's when you go back and you look at your information and you recall, and you always want to do the summary pretty quickly afterwards. So this is how we work on note-taking. Again, this is one way to set your paper up. As you get into note-taking more frequently, you'll find out what works for you. Okay, so now we're going to have you go through your notes. On page 1, you can either use your own notebook paper or you can use the sheet that's on page 1. But I'm going to have you watch a video on ecosystems. It is a longer video, but I want you, basically, it tells you all about the biomes of the world that you're going to need to learn. And I want you to practice note-taking as you are watching this video. So get out your notes and start listing out keywords and key information on your notes. And all of the information on this video will be on the quiz. Good luck!
Every plant and animal on Earth depends on other living organisms to survive. How these living things interact with the sun, air, water, and each other is called an ecosystem. Inside an ecosystem, the organisms work together to establish a balance that allows all of its members to thrive. When we talk about biomes, we mean a large group of similar ecosystems. All areas in a biome have similar plants, animals, and weather. There are many different biomes on planet Earth, both on land and in the water. Let's explore some of the many biomes on planet Earth. First, let's visit the marine biome. The marine biome is made mostly of the saltwater oceans and is the largest biome on Earth. It covers about 70% of the Earth's surface and is home to more than 230,000 known species. Animals that live in the marine biome include fish, sharks, octopus, seahorses, dolphins, manatees, seals, and whales, among many others. The blue whale, believed to be the largest animal that has ever lived on the Earth, lives in the marine biome. Thousands of plant species live in the ocean too. Ocean plants are extremely important because they provide more than half of the oxygen on Earth. That's more than every forest in the world. Algae, kelp, seaweed, and even tiny phytoplankton all live and grow in the ocean. There are many separate biomes within the ocean based on changes to the temperature, nutrients, and amount of sunlight in the water. One special type of marine biome is a coral reef. Coral reefs are only small areas in the ocean, but about 25% of known marine species live there. They are built up over thousands of years by tiny animals called polyps. The polyps have a limestone skeleton, and as one generation of polyps die, the next generation grows on top of them, making the coral reef gradually bigger and bigger. Polyps depend on energy from algae that lives inside of them to survive. Since algae is a plant, they need sunlight to create food. That is why coral reefs are only found in warm, sunny water. Reefs provide food and shelter for many species, but they are vulnerable. The last type of aquatic biome we will visit is the freshwater biome. Unlike the marine biome, which is filled with salt water, freshwater biomes are filled with water that has very low levels of salt. For the most part, animals that can survive in salt water cannot survive in freshwater, and animals that can survive in freshwater cannot survive in saltwater. Animals that live in or around freshwater biomes include fish, frogs, alligators, snakes, otters, turtles, and beavers. There are 3 main types of freshwater biomes. They are ponds and lakes, which have still water, streams and rivers, which have moving water, and wetlands, which are of land and water. Let's move on to land biomes. First, we're going to visit the polar regions. The polar ice caps in the Arctic and Antarctic are harsh places to live. Plants cannot grow on the ice, so most life in this biome is animal. By living at the edges of the ice caps, the animals that survive there are able to find food in the ocean. Fish mostly, or smaller animals. The South Pole is mostly populated by penguins. Seabirds like albatrosses, petrels, and gulls may also nest or visit there, and whales and seals thrive in the waters off the coast. At the North Pole, you might find polar bears, as well as water-going mammals like seals, walruses, and whales. Their thick layers of fur or fat help to insulate them against the freezing cold. South of the Arctic lies the tundra. The tundra is cold, an average of only 18 degrees Fahrenheit or -7 degrees Celsius. There are only 2 seasons here, a long dark winter and a short summer. Because it is so close to the North Pole, during the winter the nights become longer and longer until the sun doesn't rise at all. The situation is reversed in the summer. Days become longer until the sun stays up all day and all night. Beneath a thin layer of topsoil, the ground is permanently frozen, even during the summer, when temperatures may reach 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. This is called permafrost. There are few nutrients here to sustain plants or animals. There are no trees. The growing season is too short. Plant life in the tundra consists of moss and grasses, or small shrubs. There are still animals to be found in the tundra. Arctic foxes and hares, snowy owls, muskox, and caribou are just some of the animals that live there. Still farther south lie the forests. At colder latitudes, forests are dominated by evergreen trees. By keeping their needles all year round, they are able to make the most of the weaker sunlight. Farther south, the pine trees mix with broadleaf trees that drop their leaves when the weather turns cold. Forests grow where it is not too hot and not too cold, places with lots of nutrients and water available. As a result, a wide variety of plants and animals make forests their home. Moose, deer, bears, wolves, foxes, rabbits, and squirrels, as well as many, many kinds of birds and reptiles make their homes in forested biomes. Another type of biome is grassland and savanna. Are wide open land with low-growing plants like grass and flowers. There is not enough rain in the grassland to support tall trees, but too much water to be a desert. A savanna is very similar to a grassland, but it may also have scattered trees. Many different types of grasses grow on grasslands and savannas, and many large herbivores live there. Often, huge herds of grazing animals travel the grasslands together, seeking safety in numbers from the predators that hunt them. Although there are not many places for large animals to hide in the grass, there is plenty of small animals, like mice, snakes, rabbits, and birds. In hotter climates, we find the tropical rainforest. Rainforests are forests that get a lot of rain, and tropical rainforests are very humid and warm. Situated close to the equator, they stay warm year-round. Tropical rainforests have the greatest biodiversity, that is, the greatest number of plant and animal species of any land biome in the world. Trees in the rainforest usually grow to at least 100 feet or 30 meters in height, and from the highest part of the canopy to the forest floor, tropical rainforests are teeming with life. Some rainforest animals never touch the ground for their entire lives. Small animals like monkeys, birds, snakes, frogs, and lizards are common in the rainforest. Sloths, monkeys, bats, anteaters, jaguars, and thousands upon thousands of insects live there too. The rainforest is an important producer of oxygen for the world, as well as a home for about half of all the world's plant and animal species. Many new medicines have been found because of research on plants that grow there. Tropical rainforests are so large and dense that there are believed to be many unknown plants and animal species still to be discovered there. But rainforests are threatened with destruction as humans cut them down for wood and farmland. The last biome we will visit today is the desert. Deserts are dry. Some are hot and some are cold. But when most people think of deserts, they think of hot places. Deserts in warm places may get very hot during the day, but because they are so dry, they are not able to hold in the heat from the sun, and so they may drop to below freezing at night. Despite the harsh conditions, many plants and animals have learned how to survive in the desert. Cactus are a very famous kind of desert plant, but grasses, shrubs, and some kinds of small trees can grow there too. Many kinds of desert plants, not just cactus, have some kind of thorns or sharp spines to help protect them from hungry animals. Many types of reptiles live in the desert: snakes, lizards, and tortoises. Birds like owls and hawks, and mammals like camels, foxes, and desert hares have all discovered ways to survive and thrive in the desert too. I hope you enjoyed learning about biomes of the world today. Goodbye till next time.
Took a little bit for my computer to catch up there. Sorry about that. So, I love that video. It is so pretty and calming. It's fun to see all the different animals in the area, isn't it? Okay, so you finished with the biome video. Hopefully, you were able to take notes on that. There was a lot of keywords and information in there that you may not have remembered or have heard before. So, make sure that when you are taking your quiz, use your notes that you took during the video because they can help you on that quiz. And it will also determine how well you took notes. Taking notes is not something that you're immediately good at. It takes practice to take good notes. So just keep practicing. You'll get better and it'll get easier. Good luck on your quiz.